Hey guys.
Hey now, how you doing, man?
Hey, good.
Excited for this one.
Yeah, should be good.
Yep. I'm gonna put out a tweet.
Great. All right,
Guys,
I
I just
just
some weird thing where my keyboard popped up and I couldn't accept your request.
no worries. I just invited Benton, and we will get this going shortly.
All right, perfect. What's going on, doctor? What's going on, doctor?
I'm just waiting to hear your guys' heroics.
It was fun. I'll tell you this. We had a good time there, and it's nice to see Denver back during a bull run.
Hey Ben,
That
thanks for
actually
joining.
What's up, guys?
Benson.
Hey everyone else, we're just waiting for some people to join in, and we'll get this going.
Awesome. Benson, you were at ETH Denver?
I did not make it this year, but I heard it was a great event.
Yeah, it was a good time. It was everything is so back. People are excited. A lot of it's really about the side event. So we believe in hit the conference, but I think we'll cover that.
Hey David, thanks for joining. We're just waiting for a few more people to jump in before we really get going. I'll give it another minute or two. Benton, are there any events on your radar coming up, or are you just heads down building 4 labs?
A little bit of both. I think I'm going to be making it to Consensus. I think that's in May, down in Austin. So I went to that one 2 years ago, and Consensus is a pretty good event. So I'll probably likely be going to that one.
Yeah, we want to try to get there as well. Alec is a former Austin resident, so it'd be a nice homecoming for him.
Yeah, I'm actually I'm going in like a month and a week for a week. So, but hopefully I can extend that. Not for a whole month, but maybe I can go back. Consensus is great.
All right. How about we get this going a little bit? Now we got a couple more people here. But yeah, so Ben, thank you for joining and offering to be the guest today as we talk about ETH Denver, what Alec and Jackson saw from their trip there, and then we're gonna kind of tie that into the current narratives at play in the crypto, DeFi, blockchain space overall as we approach the Bitcoin halving. I know this is an incredible time for everyone with any stake in the market. We broke all-time highs in Bitcoin this morning, and that's the first time we've ever broken all-time high before Bitcoin halving. So the supply crunch is real. The best is yet to come, as some would say. And excited to get into this. So yeah, I mean, Alec and Jackson, I don't know who wants to take over, but if you want to do a quick recap of ETH Denver, and kind of the projects and kind of the main themes that were put on show there.
Yeah, absolutely. Actually, Jackson, do you want to start? I can kind of fill in.
Yeah, I'm happy to. Yeah, of course. It was actually my first large crypto event, large conference. Let's just put it that way. And let's just say didn't disappoint. As you just hinted at, Noah, and we've kind of been talking about here, there's no better time to be in blockchain than during a bull market, and we are gearing up for one right now. And boy, I think you'd agree with me, Alec. Could we feel it? The energy was in the. We didn't spend too much time at the actual conference. We honestly spent a lot of time at different side events, looking to meet different vendors and marketing partners to collaborate with. So we have our Twitter Spaces now filled out through the month of April, which we're very, very excited about. Going to have a bunch of guests. But my biggest takeaway was how much everyone is looking for the next 100x token right now. It was really interesting. There were so many projects out there are really trying to build new tokens and new use cases in the real world asset space. And everyone wants a token right now. That really shocked me. We were looking and talking to a lot of venture capitalists, and a lot of the time they weren't looking for direct equity investments, but instead we're looking to invest in projects with tokens that could soar and go 100x. And I don't know, I just thought it was really interesting because I thought people would have lived and learned from the last bull cycles that while you might make a quick gain on an 100x token, but the company you're typically going to see stay around for a while. And so it was just really interesting to me. I don't know if any of you guys have any thoughts about that.
Yeah. No, it was interesting. I will echo what you said. I think the sentiment was super positive. Everyone is very bullish. It's not as much of a party as it was in 2020 or 2017, for that matter. But it's I guess more controlled celebration. A lot of good events. It's funny because ETH Denver has like 20,000 people at it, and you could tell just being around the city, but it felt very small just because we were very targeted on like the RWA events and like more on the institutional side. And I'll say this, like, you're right, Jackson. There were a ton of people that were looking for, like moon growth type tokens. But there was a lot of reception to what we were building in the WA space, more controlled gains. And like, I think one of the cool things that we were able to walk away from ETH Denver with was some really cool messaging about what we're building. So like, I think about, some groups that we want to go after with something like Sound Token, which is really just like, as we see it, a digitally native fixed income asset for crypto companies, DAOs, people with large balance sheets. And like one of the messaging things that we walked away with is it's kind of like a liquid staking token, what we're building with Sound. So people are very receptive to that. People are looking in all sorts of ways. And I think positioning ourselves as a digitally native asset that offers like very, very safe growth, like there's room for that in the crypto space. And a lot of these companies, you look at Tether, they have like 80 billion in US treasuries on their balance sheet. And like, that's not a digitally native asset. So I think building like sort of a contrast to what's out there is going to play really well, especially in this bull market, as people hopefully have learned a lot of lessons and are looking for, like a more diversified portfolio than just, trying to put it all into 100x token, if that makes sense.
No, I completely agree, Alec. And I didn't mean to, if I made it sound like people weren't receptive to the more stable, long game type project. And we actually had a really great discussion around that with a guy named David from Enclave Markets, who actually helped create the Pax Gold token, which is what we're looking to model our Sound token after. I mean, they did everything right. And so we got some really, really good insights into how we can get to market a little bit quicker than anticipated with our life-backed securities like Sound token. And so we're very, very excited about the connections we made and the conversations we had. And we saw a lot of great external validation for what we're building at Benton.
Yeah. Benton, what not being there, but, kind of being in the space, and I'm sure you had team members or colleagues or clients who were out there, what were you hearing from home base?
Yeah, I mean, like, because I went to ETH Denver a couple of years ago, and like, it's really about like what's being built. And so I think anytime you go to any of these conferences, it's like those are the people that are creating the dApps. They're creating everything that the entire ecosystem is going to use and try to get that to market. So it's their opportunity to kind of like showcase, network, and get the word out about kind of what they're doing. And so everything I've heard is that this was like a huge success. Like, this is where the people were building through the bear market, and now we're kind of coming out on the other side of that. And it's just kind of like this, I guess, sentiment of like elation, like, hey, we're doing it and it's happening. And like, there was not this sentiment of like, woof, we got another like 12 months before we even see the light. So things seem to be positive and trending in the right direction from everything I've heard with the people that went to ETH Denver this year.
Cool. So on the topic of building through the bear market, I guess things that I've been looking at, and I think a big narratives in the space right now. Obviously, AI is really big. I've been diving into Bitcoin finance a good bit, real world assets, and then I was wondering, I guess, what other narratives you've been looking at specifically. I know we've talked about AI in the past, but I guess narratives you're looking at, and then I guess some of your clients, and what they're building in, and what you're really excited about, going through this year.
Yeah, I think more broadly, one of the bigger narratives that you're seeing kind of both play out in like the traditional like Web 2 world and now Web 3 is like this narrative of sustainability. A lot of projects are kind of like, there's been some greenwashing, there's been things like around this like sustainability narrative, but I think like what we're really going to find out this cycle is like what what projects and innovations are truly like sustainable in a way, from their economics to how they operate and impact the actual globe and planet. And so I think like more broadly, that's one of the narratives I'm kind of like digging into. One of our clients is just rolled out like a massive sustainability initiative and their own kind of like DAO around this. Narratives that I'm kind of starting to see pop up more and more is like ZK rollups. And I think last time we talked about liquid staking and restaking. Those kind of are more so like DeFi native narratives. But ZK rollups, I think, are going to start to make a bigger breakthrough in kind of like the enterprise and institution this cycle. I just think there's a huge need for verifying and kind of KYCing without KYCing. And so that ZK rollup, I think, is like a huge kind of infrastructure piece that is continuing to kind of expand and grow. And you're going to see a lot more interest from companies, institutions, and that kind of stuff in that area.
That makes a lot of sense. ZK has taken a weird spot in my mind because I was at ETH Denver last year in 2023, and there's a lot of ZK buzz, a lot of ZK projects, and I kind of feel like I haven't seen as many of those come to fruition as I really thought they would. So Ben, do you mind kind of diving into, I guess, a breakdown of ZK for those who don't know, and kind of, I guess, what the real application is? Like you said, the KYC without KYC. I think people would love to hear that.
Yeah. So like zero knowledge or ZK like rollups, it's like a layer 2 scaling solution. They're designed to improve like L1s, the throughput and like computation side. So a lot of the storage happens like off chain. And so what happens is like when you're utilizing this kind of tech, it allows you to batch data on chain and then allow you to like prove that this is verifiable without having to reveal the actual inputs of that data. So it's like if I go into a bar and I'm like, hey, talking to the bouncer, let me see your ID. How does he know that I'm 21 without actually showing him my ID? So like that's kind of the mechanics of what a ZK rollup is. It has been a kind of like very nuanced, like you got to be kind of like super like crypto nerdy, I think. And this is where it's like the dev side of this is really where it has spawned over the last like couple years. And it's super early with this stuff, but I think it's going to start generating more interest. And it's more of kind of like a pick and shovel than it is like, oh my God, this is like a very forward facing dApp to the entire retail side. It's more of like, this is going to be a behind the scenes of how certain platforms are built or protocols run and operate on. Long and the short, that's what a ZK rollup is.
Yeah, that was a great explanation. I really like the bouncer ID analogy. I had an idea, and I don't know if this is totally applicable, but it sounds like with ZKs, you can really verify lots of data on chain. And I'd love for Dr. Murphy to chime in and talk about what we're doing with life insurance or wrapping Bitcoin and life insurance policies, and maybe down the road somewhere we can incorporate some sort of ZK technology to verify the Bitcoin's there. Maybe we can tie that into Bitcoin finance. But Dr. Murphy, if you want to chime in about what we're doing with the whole token, the tentative name, would that be great?
Yeah, sure thing. It's just funny showing the difference in ages here. That it's been so long since I've been carded that I forgot that was a thing. So yeah, at this point, I'll be big picture about it also because I want to let those of you who are at the event in Denver to really talk about what you experienced. But what I've been working on right now, in fact, is a white paper. It's going to be coming out soon. Just talking about applying principles of risk management to even Bitcoin maxis who are all into pure hodling and so forth. Just to kind of show that it isn't a matter of you're weak or you're acting on fear if you engage in risk taking and have more of an approach to your portfolio than putting in a mixture. And it matters what the numbers are. Like it matters what you think Bitcoin's going to do over the next 5-10 years. In terms of what the optimal ratios would be of having a sort of like cash element in your portfolio, but we're just developing some modeling on that and just trying to give some education to the community just to show that it isn't a matter, like I say, even if you were an emotionless robot, you maximize your net wealth 10 years from now if you incorporate some hedging into your strategy mix. All right, so that's the basic idea. And then of course here at Infineo, if someone says, oh, okay, so in addition to whatever my particular asset is, whether it's Bitcoin or if you have some other asset you like, what should I use as the quote cash component, like the sort of default baseline that just has a steady but modest growth? Here at Infineo, obviously, we think that whole life insurance is a very underappreciated asset class for that purpose. So that's the kind of stuff we're working on, trying to mix and capture the best of both worlds where, you have the dependability of whole life, but also you can capture the explosive upside of a Bitcoin or some other asset that you might like. That's what we're working on, and keep tuned in, and you'll see that as soon as it's available.
Yeah, the when you brought up, I guess, a few weeks ago, the idea of wrapping various assets into whole life policies, I think it was really, really awesome and really opened up a lot of people's minds into what's really possible with this new sound token derivative, I guess, we're creating. I guess we can loop that back to ETH Denver. We were wondering, Alec and Jackson, what type of like is similar to sound token or insurance products did you see at ETH Denver? And I know there's a lot of like DeFi insurance, but that's totally not the space we're in. And I just kind of want to get your take of what kind of similar projects to Infineo you saw at ETH Denver, if any.
I could at least take a stab at that first, Alec. So it was really kind of cool, in my opinion. I didn't see many projects that resemble what we're doing exactly at all. I mean, there are some tokenized real-world asset projects that are working with fixed income products like Trees, for example, Ondo Finance. They were there. They hosted an event. And there's a bunch of other groups that are doing similar things with traditional fixed income assets. But I don't really see anyone doing anything as innovative as we are, really bringing a new asset class to life with life insurance. Right now, most companies are trying to bring asset classes that people are very familiar with and that are easily securitized and have been easily securitized on chain. And people just don't understand that that is life insurance. And so we do it in Infineo. And so it was really cool to see that we've kind of carved out our own little niche there. But then there was also kind of a prominence of people talking about liquid staking tokens, as Alec had talked about. And those do start to resemble a little bit of the tokens that were built, in a sense that you don't have to have a token locked up to be earning a yield, and that would be the SID sound token. You would actually be able to redeem it for the underlying cash surrender value is how we're looking at building it. And so you would be able to actually appreciate in the upside without losing the liquidity on it, as in like as with a normal token you'd have to stake. Alec, I don't know if you have anything to add there.
Yeah, so I saw a lot of insurance for DeFi, which is good for the space. I feel like that's almost impossible to underwrite because of how risky it is. I've been hacked. So many people, if you've been in crypto, you've been hacked at some point. That's my theory, at least. And I actually, like, anecdotally had a good friend who was hacked for a very large amount. Everybody has to learn the lesson once of get your crypto off of exchanges and out of MetaMask and hold in some sort of cold storage. It's good to have some on exchanges and good to have some that you can be using all the time. But a lot of your crypto you really want to get outside of any danger, just using a hardware wallet or just cold spot. So there was DeFi insurance and there were just cool companies. We spent a lot of time with lending protocols. Seems like everybody is building a lending protocol nowadays, which is great. Good competition means good yields. It also means better terms and rates for borrowers. It was really positive. It's fun to see how many people were able to build in the bear market, and now that it's starting to turn around a little bit, and I'm ready to call it a bull market. I don't know if we have the long-term data to really call it a bull market, but it's just fun to see how many people were able to build and stay with it, and truly exciting.
So Benton, going back to building the bull market, for everyone who doesn't know, Ben just launched his company 4Labs Digital. I'd love to hear about what you're doing at 4Labs. I know you help companies build, especially on the social media and marketing front. I would love to hear what you guys are up to, kind of what your specialties are, and kind of some of the projects that you could highlight what they're doing. I'm sure that would be awesome, and everyone would hear that.
Yeah, for sure. As we kind of like enter in a bull market, like a lot of companies want theirs to be heard. So like, how do you do that in a crypto or Web3? It's online. That's how a lot of people within the community connect, and then also connect with folks across the globe. So what 4Labs Digital is a full service digital marketing agency. We are very crypto native. A lot of our folks have come from projects and companies within the industry, from Cointelegraph to Xmin to you name it. We have a lot of folks that are native to Web3. So we understand brands. We understand what it takes to actually build those brands online. And we can do anything from running campaigns to building out your social branding and tone and voice and framing, running ads. Big thing that's going to come up is like a lot of people want influencers, and it's not just for like, hey, show me your token. It's like we want key opinion leaders to be talking about our project in a way that's very organic, those kind of things. So we have a huge network of people where we can connect companies and projects with influencers. They need press releases, etc. That's what we're here for. So many of our client Rolodex ranges from L1 projects to DeFi. We're actually going to be working with another client who's rolling out a Vitalik Buterin statue. For those who remember Vitalik Buterin with the the private parts where his like pants were extremely highlighted, this project has decided to turn that into an actual digital T, and they're going to be launching that NFT on a bond and yield curve. So like exciting stuff like that. We work with all different types of projects from degen, crypto projects to major L1s. So that's kind of what 4 Labs Digital is in a nutshell.
So that's definitely exciting. I know Benton and I have a long history, and he's been talking about starting his own shop for a while. So super pumped about that for him. Going back into just DeFi narratives as we were talking about before, I'd love to bring up AI and crypto, Benton. Like I said, I know it's something we've talked about before. I know you really like Render. We'd love to get your take on AI and blockchain, and especially maybe dive into Render a little bit. Talking about project specifically is always cool. We'd love to get your take on that and where you see that going.
Yeah. I mean, like, it's just like, it's kind of mind blowing how fast this like AI narrative is taken off, especially in like the mainstream. I personally have not done as much research as I feel like I should have. There's stuff that's just like popping up every single day, so it's very hard to keep track of. But with Render, I know that project in particular is really about like computation power, and that's the driving force behind like AI. So that's why NVIDIA stock has skyrocketed. It's all about the chips and computation power. You hear Zuckerberg talking about, data storage and all the stuff that you need, and him buying up a bunch of that kind of stuff. And that's where the puck is going. It's like, right, AI is going to be a huge part of anything that we're doing, especially now with this like collision we're seeing with crypto and AI. I like I said, I don't know enough about it to be a subject matter expert. But what I do know is that this is definitely going to be one of those themes to be on the lookout for. How it's going to interwork and intertwine with blockchain technology, I think it's kind of yet to be determined. We're in the very kind of like early innings of this thing. But Render has kind of seemed to take a huge market share when it comes to like computational power and what they're doing. But I can't speak quickly to like the actual mechanics of how that token interfaces with that. But I wish I knew a little bit more.
Yeah, I mean, from what I've seen, a lot of these projects, basically you pay in their token to use their services. It's as if you have to pay for GBT and GBT token. So that's kind of one of the things where I feel like people are just kind of figuring out that, the blockchain AI thing, and they're kind of making up use cases. It sounds like a, 2017, 2018 narrative where, this token will do X, Y, Z, even though it doesn't really have to. So I'm definitely really curious to see where that goes and where the tokens play a part into it. I mean, the tokens at the end of the day are somewhat of a fundraising method anyway. But it is really, really interesting. Also to see where everything goes besides computational power, because I feel like the AI agents and computational power are so much of the AI and crypto narrative now. There's other school of thought where like, crypto is the currency of AI, right? It's really easy, not really easy, but a lot easier to write a smart contract and send cryptocurrencies to someone rather than figure out banking transactions with the AI involved. So it's gonna be really cool to see where the tech goes. Jackson, you said you wanted to talk about the graph.
Yeah, so I've been working pretty closely with the graph for a while now, and I just think it's so interesting that they're now getting looped into this AI narrative. For those of you that aren't familiar with the graph is an indexing and querying protocol. It's multi-chain agnostic. So they'll work with any chain. I believe they started with Ethereum and Gnosis. And essentially what the graph allows you to is actually make sense of blockchain data. They call themselves the Google of Web3 or the Google of blockchain. And without getting too technical, what they do is they build out these subgraphs that are specific sets of data, which have live APIs that is queryable based on whatever data you're looking for. It's how a lot of the front end of the crypto websites you're familiar with work. And so essentially they have all this infrastructure for indexing and querying a majority of the major blockchains. And so because they have all this infrastructure for data, they're now getting looped into the AI narrative, and the token has been pumping over the last couple of months. It's up hundreds of %. I mean, I've been holding it for a while, and so it's back to about even now. But it was really interesting. I actually got to meet the senior engineer at Edge and Node, which is the development company for the graph. And I was able to talk to her about some of my issues that I went a little awry with the graph. So essentially right now, the way that the graph protocol works is in order for a subgraph to be queried, it needs to be curated first, which is a now completely decentralized role that used to be something that was done by the graph themselves. And so as soon as they switched this over to a community-style curation, completely decentralized, there were a lot of really bad actors in the space. And so I was fortunate to be working with a really adept developer that understood what was going on, and so was able to kind of just hold on to my tokens. But I know people that, because of a bond curve, basically you curate onto a bond curve, and on the bond curve, for those of you that are familiar, it's exponential, so you can lose very, very quickly if someone sells out of the position before you. And so that was what happened. And so I got to kind of see that the graph is looking to reconcile that, and really moving a lot of people onto this main net now, which is their last step of decentralization. And there's a new proposal out to fix the bond curve in terms of the curation. And so I just thought that that was really, really interesting, and the token's really bumping now. I mean, the AI narrative is really, really cool, and I think it stems from just like what we see in traditional finance right now. And so, just wanted to add that.
Yeah, I'm glad you mentioned bad actors in the space, because that brings us into the next thing I wanted to touch on regarding regulation. I know post ETF, I've heard a lot less talk about regulation, and regulation sounds like a bear market discussion right now. We just want to talk about new tech and prices. But going back to ETH Denver, Alec, did you notice anyone talking about regulation? Did you hear anyone any speakers speak about regulation? And I was just wondering, what's your take on that?
Yeah, that's a good question. So I think that regulation and just compliance itself is more on the forefront than it's ever been. I think every single cycle, we just see more and more compliance. I think one of the most interesting conversations that we had, actually, so we're exploring a tokenized commodity pool, and we actually got to meet the founder of Pax Gold. And so we're talking about different ways that you can kind of create access for U.S. investors for a commoditized pool. And one thing that he said, and kind of what we've been exploring, is, do we go like the Pax Gold way of creating a trust? And they created a New York trust to make it accessible to U.S. investors. Or do we go like what Tether did for Tether Gold, and kind of put the liability into the investors' hands by saying, like, you understand that it's not supposed to be available to U.S. investors, blah, blah, blah. But, still kind of not restricted in a way that's, I guess, uncrypto-like by, trying to prevent access. But it was really cool. Was able to, in the same conversation, give us advice on what he would do differently if he was creating Pax Gold today, which was cool. And one of the things he talked about was, you don't necessarily have to create a trust in New York, which would be timely. You can do it in another state. Jackson, I forget what he called it.
Reciprocity.
Yes, reciprocity. Thank you. So it was a cool conversation, and kind of just back to Noah. I mean, we're seeing more people in the real world asset space. Some people don't know anything about compliance. We actually were in line with a guy who comes from the dropshipping world, and he started telling us that he's creating a portal, or a really just like a protocol or platform, whatever he called it, for tokenizing real world assets through ERC20. And guy's probably never heard of good control location in his life, and he wants to tokenize security. So don't think that we have deep spectrum on one side who doing this very correctly, and we got to meet with people like RSM and Copper, who are really going above and beyond to be compliant and try and mimic TradFi processes, just using on-chain efficiencies. And then you still have some people who are like, let's tokenize the world and put this asset on chain that doesn't need to be on chain, and let's make it trade even though we have no KYC or accreditation restrictions. So yeah, I don't know if that answers your question, Noah.
Yeah, totally. I mean, it definitely is like an educational thing, and every cycle more and more people jump into the space. And I think the longer you're in the space, the more you care about regulations. The regulation is ultimately what we need for the space to move forward. So it's understandable that new people in the space, that's not even any part of their mind. They're just excited about blockchain and technology and the business they can create on it. Benton, I was wondering if you could talk on what you've seen with regulation, what your thoughts on it are, and if you could follow that up with we can talk about the Ethereum ETF. I saw the SEC recently, delayed the decision again. I personally don't think they're in any rush to get it done. There seems to be a lot less pressure at the Bitcoin ETF. But yeah, Ben, if you could talk about regulation and Ethereum ETF, that'd be awesome.
Yeah. So we are starting to see Gary Gensler and his faction of cronies start to wither in some ways. And I think like crypto is making a stand right now, and with all the different lawsuits from Coinbase, Grayscale, Kraken, all that kind of stuff, it's like the SEC is losing more and more of those as like the days go by. And so I think what you're starting to see, like, for example, I think Kraken rolled out some sort of like staking program or institutional staking program over the last like week or two. And that was kind of like a big like FU to like SEC, because they're like, listen, the tides are turning and like we're starting to win all these lawsuits. So I think Gary Gensler and his, faction is starting to kind of like lose these things. And ultimately it's going to lead to like, hey, this is actually going to provide and regulation that the industry has been looking for the last 5 years, 10 years. And so I think it's ultimately going to be a good thing. We're going to have to see how some of these other lawsuits play out, but especially here in the States, that is going to be a fantastic thing. Win, lose, draw, whatever happens, like it's going to provide more clarity for folks. When it comes to the ETH ETF, yes, Noah, you're exactly right. SEC is going to drag their feet. I would expect something to happen maybe at some point over the summer. We're looking at like late May, June, July. But I think ETH ETF is going to be also a huge narrative to be on the lookout for. You've seen it rise over the last week or two. That's going to kind of play out very similar to the Bitcoin ETF. If not, I think there's a lot more upside with ETH, just because of the supply that's kind of like out there right now. And we could see an actual much larger movement compared to like the Bitcoin ETF. So I am excited to see that will happen, because, is also like a real form of money. And so I think people are starting to catch on to that. And it's going to be a huge summer whenever that happens as well.
Yeah, what do you think of the? I know people. The talk right now is that Bitcoin's going idiotic. I mean, not right now. I mean, it's at I think 63.5, 64. But was having a great week. But because of the supply crunch, what do you think? I guess the supply crunch would be if there isn't ETH ETF. I know right now I think there's about 900 Bitcoins mined a day, and the ETFs are buying up a lot more about that. Halving comes, it goes down to like 450 a day. So I was wondering if you had any insight on, Alec, I know you're a big Ethereum guy as well, about the possible supply crunch given the Ethereum ETF, what that would look like.
Yeah, from my understanding, that it's also indicative of like the Grayscale ETH trust. And so I think because of like how low that is right now, that plays into the equation as well. I don't really know the nuances as to why or what, but from all the information I've read, that like that is kind of a factor into this. When it comes to actual like ETH ETF, we've seen what happened with Bitcoin. The first like week, everyone's like, wow, this was like a big nothing burger. But now look what happened. Tons, like we're talking record-breaking inflows for ETFs in general. And so I think the same thing is going to happen with the ETH ETF. And I think there's going to be huge potential once that actually goes live. You're already starting to see like major companies like Reddit come out and release that some of their treasury is actually stored in Bitcoin and ETH. And I think you're going to start to see a lot of other companies come out and start to like divulge that information. And the ETH ETF is just going to be another easy on-ramp for folks, pensions, institutions, big players to just easily store that on their books.
Yeah, if you guys haven't checked out ultrasound.money, it's definitely a cool website in terms of the Ethereum supply. For those who don't know, Ethereum is currently deflationary. And so I'm really curious when the ETF comes out, or if it ever comes out, what that looks like in terms of, especially gas prices. Like I was trying to do a swap yesterday on Uniswap. It was like $68. Like that's like unusable for most people. And I really wonder what that's going to look like when and if the Ethereum ETF drops. Alec, do you have anything to add to that as a long-time Ethereum guy?
No, I think Ben hit it on the head, really. I don't have much to add.
Cool. So I guess, we're wrapping up in, 15 minutes or so. And something else I want to touch on, Benton, Jackson, Alec, in community building. I mean, you just went to ETH Denver. You saw a very strong community out there. And community building is really the heart of what crypto is all about, right? Bitcoin was an incredible grassroots movement. So is Ethereum and a lot of these other projects. I guess, Alec, Jackson, do you want to talk about what you saw in terms of community and, just like the bond that, crypto guys all have together?
Yeah.
Go ahead, guys.
Alec, do you want to start? Okay, I'm happy to. So, I actually, for Yeah, if you met me at ETH Denver, which we do have some people in the audience that do. Hi, Nikki. Hope you're doing great. I just moved out to Denver, and so it was really cool to meet everyone within the crypto community actually, but I was also able to make some really cool connections with people that also live in Denver. I was able to meet someone from a community called Cryptorado, and at Cryptorado, they do co-working Fridays for people that work in the Web3 space, which is me. And they also do hikes in the mountains around the weekends, as well as other networking opportunities week to week. And so I was really, really just fortunate to meet the guys from that club. And hopefully I'm going to start co-working with them and doing some of their networking events. And I'm really, really excited about that. And then obviously the people that we met externally, it was unmatched. From Nikki from Relio, who we're going to be having a Twitter space with coming up here shortly. I believe the date for that one's going to be April 16th. Don't quote me on that, though. And that'll be an exciting one. We met a ton of people in the real world asset space like her and Relio. And we are really, really excited to kind of mesh communities, shed the light on their projects. And yeah, it was really, really great. Alec, I don't know what you want to add to that.
Yeah, all I want to say is it's just cool that you have a lot of people who are very supportive of each other. There was very little, people in the space and companies in the space, maybe competition in some regards, but it seems very supportive from just an all, perspective. And it was just cool to see. And, we got the chance to meet with a bunch of real world asset people. Some are building similar stuff in the space. And, that's okay. I think, you see a lot of VCs start competing for deals because the flip kind of switched where for a while, it was very much a VC market where they could pick and choose the best projects. And now everything's because everything's kind of turning around, becoming more bullish, you see more projects that VCs are competing for. And VCs, you saw like 5 of them hosting one event to try and meet founders. And it's just a really cool space right now. And everyone's trying to lift each other up. And, this is very much a rising tide lifts all ships industry. And it was just fun. It was good to see. We haven't seen it in a while where everybody was, in such a great mood and so bullish on the space. And it was great to be right in the middle of it.
Yeah, so Ben, just following up on that, I know you've been to your fair share of conferences and also done a lot of work, building communities online, whether that's Telegram, Discord. I'd love to get your take on conferences in general and, what you do personally to help foster that community online, and then the sheer really importance of having a strong, Telegram or Discord community for a crypto project.
Yeah, I mean, I think conferences are the best way to just connect. I mean, so many of us are just live online all day. It's like you actually get to put a face to the JPEG with the Slack person that you chat with, or you're on Twitter or on Telegram. So conferences for sure, best way to connect with other people inside of Web3 network, and meet new people, new projects, learn about what are the upcoming trends. So highly recommend, if you're able to go to upcoming conferences, some of the ones I'd mentioned, I think earlier were Consensus is a big one. ETH Denver is another one. Bitcoin Miami is more kind of like Bitcoin Maxi, but still a good event. Tons of those. So you kind of have your big, there's probably 6 to 8 of these big conferences around the world each year. And then there's tons of kind of mini conferences too. So depending on where you're at, also look into local DAOs. I know Alex or Jackson had mentioned your local meetups. There's a Boston DAO here where they do a meetup every month, and you get to connect with VCs or projects or just people interested in Web3. So great way to just connect and build community that way in person. But then when it comes to your project, your company, your brand, protocol, etc., a community is so imperative. We've seen it play out through the last cycles. If you don't have community and you don't have your ambassadors online, screaming your name, providing the value to newcomers and what are the benefits, and out there being your voice, then it's the tree falls in the woods and nobody hears it or sees it. So I think it's when it comes to that, what are ways to do that? Well, of course, it's your branding. What are you doing online from Twitter? But it's also about how are you interacting with your community, whether that's more directly on Telegram and Discord. And that's really where valuable connections, bonds, and interactions are built, are on those 2 specific platforms. It gives you immediate feedback from your community. I'll give you a perfect example. The guy that bought Pudgy Penguins came in gunslinging, this is the direction I want to go in for Pudgy Penguins, and then felt out his community, listened, heard, interacted with them, and was oh shit, I need to pivot in these directions. This is what the people want, but I also need to kind of intertwine that with my vision And now he's building out this huge IP around Pudgy Penguins, has gotten it into Walmart and done these amazing things, but he couldn't have done that without his community. And so that's really, I think, what a lot of this boils down to in Web3, considering it's like you zoom out, it's like we are still such a small niche inside of like the global industry. It's growing and expanding, but like when you zoom out and actually look at like all the different markets and across the globe, it's like we are still so small and it's still so early. So community is a huge part of that.
Yeah, and on that note, Bennett, that was all so incredible, and I completely agree with you about the importance. And just need to shout out one company I was super impressed with from ETH Denver, and something they did to build their community that I thought was just so unique. I'd never seen anything like it. Essentially, as you guys know, at most conferences, the thing to do to build community is give something away. People love to give away swag and merch, t-shirts, hoodies, stickers, whatever it may be. And sure, while that may work, it's never anything that memorable or that meaningful. But when we were at the Genzia Media House before Alec was interviewed, we met a guy from a company called Codex, and he handed us a laminated Roman, like old ancient Roman coin, completely worn down with their branding like under the lamination. And yeah, I just am now 100% a part of that Codex community. Did not know the company, and now here I am talking about them on a space, promoting them, and definitely gonna end up checking them out and engaging with them in whatever way I can. So just thought it was a really, really interesting way that they built community.
Yeah, no, the swag can be an important part of community building and brand recognition. Well, that was awesome, guys. Thanks to everyone who came. I think we're gonna wrap it up now. But Ben, thank you so much for joining. Follow Ben. You can check out his new company, 4 Labs Digital, just at 4 Labs Digital on Twitter. I know they're doing great work, and Benton is a hell of a marketer. So yeah, any of your marketing needs. And yeah, we do these crypto spaces every other week. As Jackson said, we have some incredible guests coming up in the next few weeks. People we met at ETH Denver. Infineo, we are rolling out our Web3 products in the upcoming months. And that being said, we're going to get on the conference circuit. I think we're going to NFT NYC in April. We're going to try to get consensus in May. And we're looking to do something big at the Futures Conference in Toronto in August. So hopefully we can keep these rolling. Thanks for everyone who joined our spaces, and looking forward to a continuing discussion.
And really quickly, I wanted to just make sure that we could plug our M5 podcast, hosted every week by Dr. Robert Murphy, who is our chief economist at Infineo, and he does a great job and gets incredible guests there. Talks about everything in the future of finance. So. Thanks, Noah. Thanks, Jackson. Thanks, Ben. Thanks, Dr. Murphy. And looking forward to next week or 2 weeks.
To the moon. See you guys.
Thanks, everyone. Thanks, everybody.
Thank you, guys.